All right, good morning, everyone. We have Tim Draper with us, VC billionaire in the Silicon Valley and a unicorn investor. He's invested in amazing companies like Tesla, Hotmail, and one of my favorites, Coinbase. So we're here to ask him what his thoughts are about the crypto mainstream, how it's heating up, his experience in the space, and a lot more amazing questions. So stay tuned. Good morning, Tim. Thank you again for your time.
Terrific. Thanks for having me on your show, Jouell. This is great.
Awesome. Okay, so my first question for you today is, when was your first introduction to Bitcoin, and how were you able to recognize the power of Bitcoin at an early stage?
Well, I was looking for something like Bitcoin for years, and it came because there was this Korean guy who came into my office, and he said that about half of Korea is playing this game. I think it was called Lineage, and that half was playing the game as though it was a part of their life. So they were kind of living two lives. In fact, he said that he paid for a guy to be his avatar during the middle of the day while he had to go to work.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, people are really taking this virtual thing seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said that his son, this was like 2003,
Wow.
he said his son was asked for a sword for his birthday. And I said, well, why is that relevant? He said, no, it's just pixels on the screen. All of a sudden I thought, wow, virtual goods, real money paying for virtual goods. There could be virtual money. Long term, I thought, boy, we're going to be using virtual money. This is going to be awesome.
Right.
So a lot of games came up, and a lot of where they had virtual money, but none of the virtual monies. I thought games were going to connect, where the Farmville coins would be meshed with the coins from some other game.
Right.
But it didn't happen that way. And then when Bitcoin came up, I thought, oh, wow, this is it.
Right.
Suddenly you've got a token that is frictionless, easily transferable, doesn't have a third party, a trusted third party. The computer system is the trusted third party. It's open, transparent. Then later on, I realized how important it was. And that was when the Silk Road guy, I bought a bunch of Bitcoin, and then the Silk Road guys stole it. No, sorry, Mt. Gox stole it.
Yes.
Mt. Gox stole it.
Wow.
And when that happened, I thought, oh, too bad. That was the end of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. Bitcoin only dropped about 15% on the news that the biggest exchange basically stole $400 million worth of Bitcoin. And I thought that was over, but it wasn't. And so I thought, whoa, people are willing to take that kind of a risk for this kind of currency. And then I dug in and I saw how important it was. It was global currency. It wasn't tied to some political force. It was open, transparent. It kept perfect records. All these things became a real source of value. And I thought, wow, Bitcoin is going to be really important to society.
Right.
That was when the Silk Road auction came up, and I bought a bunch of tokens from the U.S. Marshal's office. And I had been buying a little bit all the way along, but when the auction came up, that was an opportunity for me to buy a bunch.
Right.
And I had a pretty good sense that that eventually we were all going to need this. And as politicians and bureaucracies get more and more heavy-handed, people are going to be looking for this kind of an outlet.
Right. Well, thanks for mentioning that Silk Road auction. I did want to ask a question about that. You did cover a bit how you were able to see that value of Bitcoin and you were able to get a large amount during that auction. So did you actually envision the economic value of Bitcoin to grow to its capacity that it's grown with all-time highs, seeing over 19,000 at the time at the auction? And also, did you have any competitors there, or were you kind of the only investor, VC investor in the space? Were you worried about that, or?
No, and I knew many of the investors. There were quite a few people that bid for those coins, but it turns out, as I listened to all the talk that was going on, all the talk was what kind of a discount people could get for their Bitcoin. And I thought, well, look, if I really want the Bitcoin, I'm going to have to pay a premium.
Right.
And so I bid over market.
Okay, good strategy.
And the reason I did was I thought, well, if this works, it's going to be so huge.
Right.
The amount of currency in the world is $81 trillion. And if that all moves to Bitcoin or other crypto, some very large portion of currency is going to be Bitcoin, and that's going to be worth a lot because there are only 21 million of them, and we know that. So I kind of had a sense that this, if it worked, was going to be a very big deal. If it didn't work, it didn't matter if I paid a little bit above market.
Right. I mean, if you have the resources.
Because if I paid above market, below market, the volatility was going to be very high. It was going to go very high. It's going to be worth a lot, or it's going to go to zero, and then be worth nothing. So it didn't really matter what I paid at the time.
Right. So you had that vision. That's awesome that you were able to see that. Another sign you're a great investor. So next question.
I predicted on Fox News, I predicted that Bitcoin would hit 10,000.
Yeah, right.
And that was I said within 3 years, and it was almost 3 years to the day from that interview that Bitcoin crossed 10,000.
Wow, that's amazing. And we're seeing that getting ready to happen again shortly, hopefully. We're at 9,000, so I see that happening definitely soon. That's amazing stuff. So your thoughts on, since things are heating up in the mainstream, we've got Libra Coin dropping, we've got SpedIn, the wallet where you're able to use it in stores like Nordstrom, Whole Foods, Baskin Robbins. Can you speak on your perspective how regulators are attempting to try and stop and slow down the mainstream adoption based on how they're attempting to ban crypto, as we've seen with certain representatives?
Yeah, I feel less threatened by our representatives who fight for their jobs and work hard to get elected and have to talk to lots and lots of people and learn from all of them than I do the unionized bureaucrat who's sitting there and they don't want anything to change.
Right.
And those are the ones that I'm the most concerned about because they don't want change. Politicians, I think, they generally do want change. They want to. They got into office for change. I think most politicians would agree that this represents great progress for society, and the bureaucrats are slowing it down because they're saying, hey, we don't want a threat to our existence.
Right.
9 to 5, watch the clock, distance, and so I think that there's we have a little bit of a problem now. You'll always see a few politicians grandstanding to try to get their face out there from one side or another. But I'm really less concerned about them than I am concerned about the bureaucrats slowing down this progress. This is really good progress. It's really great technology. It's more secure than any fiat currency. It's better for society. It doesn't require, whereas with fiat or government currencies, you have to pay 2.5% to 4% every time you buy something in the store to some bank.
Right.
Well, that isn't true. That's not the case with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, it's frictionless. You're open. It's open and transparent, and you don't have. In fact, it's so transparent that you don't even you don't need the auditing, all that stuff, because it's all done on the blockchain and it's very clear for all to see. So it gives. I would think governments would embrace Bitcoin, right, because they keep perfect records, and you don't have any way to kind of work around that or whatever. So I think taxes will all be paid flat out. You don't have to have an audit. You don't have to have the accountants. The taxes can be paid immediately. I think as governments recognize this, they're going to be more valuable. They're going to realize how valuable it is for their society and for their tax base.
Right.
And progress. People get wealthier if there's less friction to trading.
Right.
So we'll all get wealthier if we all move to a platform like Bitcoin. And then you asked about Libra and all of that. It's interesting. I think it's great that Facebook is jumping into the fray. I think eventually they'll probably fall into the same place that all the other cryptocurrencies have fallen, where they say, well, Bitcoin's better.
Yeah.
They're way late into the game. Bitcoin's had a lot of time to solidify, to work through all the kinks, and it's open and transparent and has no central force to it.
Right.
I think people like that more. I think the Facebook customers would like that more. But still, I think it's great that they're endorsing cryptocurrency. I think they're saying, hey, this is important for society. We're tired of paying the banks 2.5% to 4% every time we buy something. Why are we doing that? And this is one of those great times. You are hearing some politicians grandstand against Facebook. I think that plays well in with people who are not well informed.
Right.
And I think that people who are well informed realize how great Facebook is for society, how great all these companies that are being picked on are for society. And so I think eventually people, when it really comes to it, they're smart. They're not going to fall for that grandstanding.
Right. And like you said, a lot of it comes from lack of information and knowledge in this space. And a lot of the older generations aren't really seeing the broad effects that it can have down the line. They're kind of stuck in the ways, I guess you would say. So do you see, I guess, regulations helping them to open their eyes to why this is an amazing technology? I know a few people I've asked, have you tried converting your pension into Bitcoin? They've actually called and said they've never been asked that question before, and they would have to go through regulations and things of that nature. Do you see that coming anytime soon, where pensions can be converted for Bitcoin?
Well, regulators have a very tough job right now, because they're living with all of these old regulations that are 80 years old. The 33 Act and the 40 Act are 80 plus years old, and so much has changed during that time, and they're trying to apply those regulations to this new world. And I think that there's something missing there. They're also saying, hey, we don't want to lose technological edge we get. They don't want to lose the idea that if we had regulated the internet, the US would have not benefited from all of this amazing stuff that's happened from the internet.
Right.
And I think that regulators feel that they don't want to be the stupid one who regulated the cryptocurrency world, because they know that that's the way the future is going to go. And if they regulate it too heavily, then all of that business will go to Malta and Japan and wherever else people are being free with these cryptocurrencies. So they're torn a little bit, and I think they need to sort of even rethink the whole thing, because applying 1933 and 1940 SEC rules is something that's so different, has so many different ways of going. You know, new technologies, they take off and then they blossom in 100 different ways. This can be blossoming in 100 different ways, and if the regulators come in too hard, they're going to lose some of the blossoms.
Right.
So I think that could be a and I know that I know a lot of the people there, and I know they're doing their absolute best to sort of make it feel safe for that old guy.
Yeah.
but also feel free for that young person who wants to kind of create this new economy.
Right.
You know, they used to say that the SEC protects the widows and the orphans. I think it's good that they protect the widows, but maybe not the orphans. The orphans need that chance to succeed.
Oh no. Poor orphans. Okay, well that's a great perspective, and it helps me understand that a lot better. Another question I'll wrap up with: what are your thoughts about the Warren Buffett and Justin Sun lunch? I think it's a very amazing strategic plot that he did by sitting down with Warren Buffett and getting together with him to kind of persuade him in his thinking and see how we can convert him into crypto. I don't know if it'll be an easy job, but what do you think about it?
Well, I missed the lunch, but I know Warren Buffett has a lot of our dollars, of the dollars out there. So he's not going to be looking for another currency. He's thinking, oh boy, I don't want another currency because I've got these dollars. And all of a sudden the dollar is not worth as much as the equivalent in Bitcoin. And he's looking and he's saying, I don't want to see this.
Right.
You know, that doesn't look good to me.
It's a threat to his
whereas somebody who has come out of college $200,000 in debt,
right,
in dollar debt, is going to look and say, this didn't work for me. I think I want this new economy. I like the new economy. And so seeing the younger people saying, I want Bitcoin, and you're seeing the older people saying, hey, no, I'm good with dollars. That's all I want to do. And let me just kind of go off into the sunset with my political currency.
Right.
I think that as most technologies do, it will start with the young innovators and early adopters, and it will spread. It'll
God bless you.
spread to the rest of the people over a long period of time. But I did make a prediction that Bitcoin would hit 250,000 by 2022 or 2023. I'm hedging a little,
right?
Because that represents 5% of the currencies around the world.
Wow.
And 5% in 4 years seems to me to be pretty reasonable. That enough people will start using Bitcoin. I mean, with OpenNode, you will be able to easily buy things and sell things, and OpenNode can make the payment or the time of transaction faster than the Visa network. So we can make very quick trades and moves with OpenNode, and it won't affect the speed. It isn't affected by the slow speed of the Bitcoin blockchain. So all of a sudden we've got a new vehicle to spread Bitcoin to the world. And hey, it's just better. People in Sudan who are stuck in some horrible place, they might have lots of Sudanese money, but then they become a refugee in Greece. They don't know the language. They don't have any currency. Well, if they had Bitcoin, they could just walk across the border and start their life again.
Right.
I think this is, and that's, you know, a natural thing. A lot of things can happen. People can push you out of your country, and you have to go start your life again in another country. It's happening all over the world because of all
Yes.
the dictators.
Yeah. So, like, do you see the dollar? You know what happened in Venezuela, where you got money flying on the streets and people are converting to Bitcoin there. Do you see that happening to our dollar here eventually, like valueless in the future?
You know, I think everything will find its natural place in the marketplace, because people say, oh, hey, there's this new, better social media. Is that going to knock Facebook out of the game? Well, maybe, but what if you've got some great social media, it's gonna come up, and Facebook's gonna adapt. Different people will adapt to the new marketplace, and so I don't see Bitcoin being 100% of the marketplace. I see that cryptocurrencies becoming more than half of it, though, over some period of time, because they're just better.
Right.
I mean, given the choice, would you rather have something that's safe, transparent, open, keeps perfect records, frictionless, doesn't cost any, you don't have to pay the bank? Or do you want something that's burdened by political whims or the banks or whatever? You're going to want the cryptocurrency. That just is going to be the case. So you're going to generally want that. And I think that over time will probably take, you know, over many, many years, will probably take over, and using political currency will be kind of fringe.
Right.
But it'll take some time, and so, and there will always probably be some use for political currency, if for no other reason, maybe as a collector's item.
Perfect. That's amazing. Well, thank you, Tim, so much for your time this morning. I know I appreciate it, as well as the audience, and your feedback was great. It's always knowledgeable, and we really appreciate you taking time out of your day. So
terrific. Well, send me the link. I'll blast it out to my group too.
Definitely. I'm going to press the stop on the record button real quickly and then say a few words to you.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Uh-oh. Where's the? Oh, there it is.